Hi, PerspectiveWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Wednesday, April 29th. A major rain event is coming to the eastern U.S. It'll be primarily focused on Thursday and Thursday night into the early part of Friday. We have a combination of factors that will contribute to this major rain event. Number one, we'll have tropical moisture feeding in along the eastern seaboard from south to north, all the way from the Gulf of Mexico and also the southwestern part of the Atlantic Ocean. Number two, we have a very vigorous wave of energy in the upper part of the atmosphere that will be a very slow mover, and that will help to provide some upward motion in the atmosphere throughout much of the mid-Atlantic region and northeast U.S. over the next 24 to 36 hours or so. And finally, we have a painfully slow-moving frontal system that will be trailing the main low-pressure area as it edges its way towards the eastern seaboard. That will allow for a long period of rain. It will allow for a long time for that tropical moisture to continue to funnel in from the south to the north along the Atlantic seaboard. Just thought I'd kind of paint the picture here, starting off with a blank map before we get to the actual computer forecast models. First of all, in terms of the upper air low, the 500 millibar low, there's already kind of a low pressure area in the upper part of the atmosphere right in this region right here, and we'll see basically it rides up to the Great Lakes region, that kind of loops back around and heads on into the mid-Atlantic region, all very slow moving, all resulting in an extended period of rain. Now, in terms of the surface low itself, already featuring a low pressure area right here over the Great Lakes region, and over the next 48 hours or so, it too does kind of a looping action here, a very slow mover. Maybe by 48 hours from now, it'll be around here. Again, this is Wednesday morning, this is Friday morning. All of this is because there's a block in the upper part of the atmosphere to the north and east. So the upper level feature and the surface feature will be very slow movers. Now there's a frontal system that's trailing this low pressure area in this fashion, and it will just be painfully slowly moving from west to east over the next 24 to 48 hours or so, and not even pass through until maybe during the day on Friday, again allowing for an extended period of rainfall here. Now, one other feature that we'll talk about in a moment here, there will be tropical moisture all the way from the Gulf of Mexico riding up the eastern seaboard, and it will actually combine with Atlantic tropical moisture riding up the eastern seaboard. That will keep this whole area very, very moist for a long period of time, and this is the area of high concern for flooding. Potential exists here for 2 to as much as 4 inches of rain or so, really from New York State all the way down to the Carolinas, and that includes D.C., Philadelphia, New York City metropolitan regions. Well, let's first start off by looking at the Zero-Z GFS model run. I mentioned yesterday the European model has been much more consistent, much more bullish on the rainfall for this upcoming event. And we'll go through the European model as well later on here, but I wanted to start off with the GFS because it too is now catching on, seeing a major rain event for the eastern U.S. First of all, mentioned a moment ago, we have upper air, a vigorous wave of energy in the upper part of the atmosphere, already situated over the Mississippi Valley. But let's just move forward here from this morning, Wednesday morning, and watch what it does. It tends to rotate around to the southern part of the Great Lakes region, the northern Ohio Valley, by early tomorrow. So in 24 hours, it just moves from around here to about here. And then it kind of dives to the south and east. And here we go by Friday morning, situated right over the interior part of the mid-Atlantic region. So really in the 48-hour period, again, there's a blocking pattern to the north and east. This upper level feature goes from right around here, the Mississippi Valley, to the Great Lakes, and then dives back down to the south and east. And it is still dogging the area here in the mid-Atlantic region on Friday, with some occasional showers likely on Friday as well. But the heaviest rain looks like it'll be tomorrow and tomorrow night from New York State all the way down to the Carolinas. So that's ingredient number one. Now let's take a look at a second ingredient here that we talked about up front, namely tropical moisture feeding into this system from the Gulf of Mexico, from the southwestern part of the Atlantic Ocean. What we're looking at here is the precipitable water anomaly forecast map from the 0Z GFS model run, basically showing where the very moist air is in green and where drier air is in brown. So looking at these green area, you can see it's already kind of moist here in the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, even a little bit of green already Wednesday morning showing up over the mid-Atlantic region. But watch what happens here with this low pressure area over the Great Lakes here by later on today, early tonight, starting to see this influx of moisture all the way from the Gulf of Mexico wrapping into the system over the Great Lakes. By the time we get into early tomorrow, here we are, Thursday morning, low pressure over the Great Lakes, a painfully moving, slowly moving cold frontal system moving from west to east towards the east coast. But look at this fetch of air from the Gulf of Mexico all the way feeding into the system, moving up the Atlantic seaboard from the southwestern Atlantic, all of this moving up. Strong southerly flow right along the coast, funneling that tropical moisture from the south to the north, setting the stage for this major rain event. We'll move forward here and just a flood of tropical moisture into the mid-Atlantic region, into the northeast tomorrow afternoon, and that sets the stage again for this major rain event tomorrow and tomorrow night. Now let's take a look at the surface forecast maps from the 0Z operational GFS model, and then we'll take a quick look at the European model run as well. Here's that low pressure area I talked about up front here, already over the Great Lakes region with a frontal system trailing from that low pressure center all the way down to the northern Gulf region here. And again, we've talked about this before. The black lines here represent lines of equal pressure. Winds tend to flow parallel to the isobars here. So in this particular scenario, you have a south to north flow of air ahead of that frontal system. Again, that will act to pump in some very moist air in the along the east coast on Thursday and Thursday night. Let's now move forward here. Again, low pressure, very slow moving. It kind of runs into an atmospheric roadblock over the Great Lakes, virtually moves nowhere over the next 12 hours or so. And look at this screaming southerly flow of air along the eastern seaboard setting up by tonight. And notice the winds will increase this evening in places like Philadelphia, New York City, Boston, Washington, all the way up and down the eastern seaboard. Again, that's tropical moist air moving in. And here we go now by tomorrow morning, that frontal system over the Appalachians, very moist air flowing up along the Atlantic seaboard. And look at that low pressure area virtually moves virtually nowhere in 24-hour period from this morning to tomorrow morning. So this is another key ingredient. Very slow moving to the surface low pressure area and to the surface frontal boundary zone. And here we go. This is the time period for heavy rainfall. Midday, afternoon tomorrow, going into tomorrow night in places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, and eventually it extends all the way to the north and east into New York State and New England. Here we go by Friday morning. Finally, that low starts to kick out a little bit from the Great Lakes to the northeast. Still, the upper level low we talked about a moment ago, still sitting on top of the region. An unsettled end to the week on Friday. Certainly won't get the heavy rain on Friday that we'll see tomorrow and tomorrow night, but showers are quite likely on Friday, a chilly day for this time of the year. And finally, that kicks on out of here by Saturday morning, and Saturday could actually turn out to be quite a nice day in the mid-Atlantic region, and some of that will hold on Sunday, but clouds will increase on Sunday. The next system looks like it'll bring showers back to the mid-Atlantic region late Sunday or perhaps more likely Sunday night. Well, let's take a quick look at last night's 0Z European model run. This is the total rainfall amount depicted by the 0Z European model run for this upcoming event. This ends on Friday, so it really captures most, if not all, of this upcoming event. Again, that will be Major rain for D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, Thursday afternoon, Thursday night, going into early Friday. Look at some of these totals here. As much as 3.5 inches over northern New Jersey, and generally I expect maybe a 2 to 4 inch rainfall, and the grounds are pretty well saturated from recent rains, and not only the recent rains that have left the top layers of the soil rather moist in the Mid-Atlantic region, but it's been a very chilly April. That inhibits any kind of evaporation, and that too will has kept the surface layer rather moist. So definitely localized flash flooding is a concern given the saturation of the soil as we go into this event, and of course that will be made worse by the very heavy rainfall, perhaps 2 to 4 inches Thursday night going into early Friday. Well, let's end with a couple of maps from last night's 0Z run of the European model. These maps from WSI Incorporated. This is the forecast map from the European model for late tonight. And again, the European model has been probably the most consistent of the models I look at, like the GFS and the Canadian model, and the most bullish in terms of total rainfall. It has really sent a red flag for a major rain event a little bit sooner than the GFS and the CMC, the Canadian model, which are now picking up on it and getting more and more like the Euro. Again, the forecast map for late tonight. Let's move forward here. And here's the forecast map for tomorrow morning. Again, low pressure, we talked about over the Great Lakes. A very slow moving, pretty much north to south oriented frontal system edging towards the eastern seaboard. Here's the forecast map for tomorrow afternoon. Look at this, just a long area here from New York State all the way down to the Carolinas with significant rainfall. That's tomorrow afternoon's forecast map. And then tomorrow evening, look at that. That is some significant rain for the big cities of D.C., Philadelphia, nearing New York City at this time. This is for tomorrow afternoon going into tomorrow evening. Very slow moving system. And then here we go by late tomorrow night, still significant rainfall over places like Philadelphia, New York City starting to wind down in the DC metro region. And finally we get to Friday morning. Still not over with yet, certainly not in the New York City or New England area. Again, given the atmospheric roadblock, this system will be a very slow mover, and that is another one of the ingredients setting us up for a major rain event throughout much of the eastern U.S. Thursday night, going into the early day on Friday. So stay tuned for updates later today. Again, a major rain event. Watch out for localized flooding, especially tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow night in the I-95 corridor region. That's it for now. For PerspectiveWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.